Oh, here we go. Hey, we're
Hey.
live. My name is Steve Houston, and this is I think this is going to be our first podcast, really, Josh.
Yeah, it is.
Our first podcast, right. And the title is "Do the Hard Ass," and that actually comes from Josh. We had a lot of conversations about that. We may or may not get into that today, but welcome. And look, we're planning on being real with everybody that watches these podcasts. Where this is not a team call, this is not an IMO call. This is we can be totally unscripted here because there are no names except that Josh Collar's the lead producer, and you see, I don't have anything next to my name. I'm just here to hold the microphone. Anyways, so we want to dive deep. We really want to get into the nuts and bolts of really, talking about the mindset of this business, right? So I find that mindset, and this is why I love Josh so much, because he really focuses on mindset as well. But I look, everything in this business can be taught. Right. It's there's nothing that we do that's overly complicated. If you have the right coach, the right system that's time tested, proven to work, other people that are having success, you can plug anybody into that system and they can have success, as long as they check themselves up. They check up the neck up. If the mindset is wrong, if the expectations that you set are off base, and you don't have a control over how you think and how you process things, I don't care what kind of system you have or how good it is, you're going to derail your success. You've got to work as much on yourself as you do on the skills. Is that right, Josh?
I think 100%. I think 100%. Up there, it all stems from where you position your mind, right? Where's your determination? Where are you going to push yourself to go to the next level? What steps are you going to do to make the right decisions to move yourself forward? And I think it's a good opening for, I think, on a little bit on tonight's topic on is fear, right? And it's kind of, I guess, the only, Steve, I've always been a mindset guy, and it's always been that. And honestly, it all stems from that word, fear, right? Is because from early on, I mean, it's a lot of the mindset that I got has been a little bit self-taught in the aspect of personal experience, right? And I think if you're making the right choices in life, you should be getting a little bit of that personal experience. But mine drives a little bit back from back in my old door meat door days, right? When I was hired on doing that, I'm going to give you a little backstory, kind of give you a little journey to kind of see my mindset. Is when I was just 18 years old, and that was a 1099 company, independent contractor. I had to pay my own gas for the truck, had to do all that stuff. I didn't collect a paycheck. Here I am, 18 years old, and going and knocking doors, basically in my hometown. And I would catch myself, and I did it pretty regularly, just driving around, trying to find the perfect neighborhood, trying to find the perfect thing. And most of it, and it didn't click on me until, I had some decent days and stuff. And, I was still trying to find myself in the business. I saw all the money everybody else was making. It kept me hungry. But I was struggling to the point where I was running out of gas all the time. Like I was cashing in bottles and cans, because here in Oregon, you get refunds on your bottles and cans and stuff. Doing that to pay for fuel to be able to work the next day, right? Company, they shut this office down. Asked if everybody wanted to would pay us to transport the trucks to Arizona. Sent up there to go to the office. Once I clicked there, and I wasn't knocking on doors on people that were local to me, where I would be afraid of what people thought of me. King's in that fear. That fear held me back because I was worried what people would think of me. Right at the end. So it kind of takes those steps down a little bit further. So down there, and I came to a realization of that, going, why all of a sudden, it's like, I thought first I was like, oh God, it's just that it's great here in Arizona versus Oregon just was a mess. But versus then I came to a realization going, no, I was when I went and reflected, and that's if everybody is wise to keep your mindset straight, is you need to self-reflect, right, on your choices. And most of my fear, I was afraid that I was going to run into somebody that I knew. What are they going to think of me? Here I am knocking doors, selling meat, and doing all this stuff. It's all about the choices you make and how bold you're willing to be. How far are you willing to step outside your comfort zone? You look at any successful person out there, the only reason where they are today is because they were willing to step outside their comfort zone. And I'll be able to kind of reflect that from my learning experience in the meat days. I had, trainers there, guys that would go, when they had an objection going on, I don't got enough room in my freezer for the meat, and sit up there and they go, oh, no, oh, let me take a look. Get in there. Oh, here, I'll show you. And start loading in their freezer. It took me a little bit till I got to that point to be bold enough to do that. But I tell you what, once I became bold enough to do that, things changed very dramatically. So that the moral of the story is that you have to step outside your comfort zone, step away from that fear. And not to get away, fear generates everything. It generates our momentum of moving forward in the positive of our life and fulfillment. And it does the opposite. It can regress us also, right? And it depends upon where you want to let the fear be the driving force. Do you want it to be the fear of you being able to suppress enough to be able to push yourself, no matter how scared you are of it, and do that thing that you are trying to accomplish? Or do you want it to be that fear that is going to regress you? And it's not to get political and stuff, but it's the same stuff that you hear on the news and stuff, how they get people generated to do certain actions and stuff. People are either afraid of something happening to them, and so they're going to make an action, or they're afraid of what people are going to think of them, and they don't do an action, right? So it's all relevant. Anyways, sit up there. I keep going on a rant, Steve. I'm going to pull you in. What's your thought?
Fear is a powerful force. I mean, again, we don't want to get political on this, and it really isn't about politics. But we can talk about the things that are happening in the current world, which is the vax mandates. It's the mask mandates. The only reason why anybody does that stuff is for fear of getting COVID, right? So they use fear to get people to get the vaccination. Can't hear me? What happened? Get me now?
Still can't.
Hang on. How about now?
Of course, first broadcast, you guys. Be
How about
patient
now?
with us. Looks like a little tech difficulties here.
Nothing?
Still can't.
Hang on.
Oh.
Yeah. How about now? Hang on.
Go to your settings, to your mic settings.
Any good? Any good? No? Any good? Testing.
Nope.
It's weird. I haven't touched anything.
Maybe kick yourself out and bring yourself back in.
Testing. 1, 2. This thing says I'm there, but I don't see it.
So while we're waiting on Steve here a little bit, I'll kind of delve into a little bit more of my thought process. Okay.
Heck. No?
Why don't you just switch to your computer, Mike? Anyways, I mean, so I'll kind of go back a little bit on what I was saying, is that fear is simply there. If you're starting a new journey, a new business, being an entrepreneur, going out there and bringing your start your business and sit up there, making sure that you can overcome that fear of making that next step, right? It's sitting up there, not letting the fear paralyze you, right? And I think that's where it really boils down to is letting that fear paralyze you. And then generally when people are trying to make that uncomfortable choice of moving forward, whether you spend that money on that business venture or on anything that they need, the advertising or whatever they need to be spending money on to bring their business forward, it's going to cause you're going to step outside your comfort zone. Yes, it's an uncomfortable aspect of life to sit there going, geez, I'm going to spend all this money on something and it's all going to be on me. Right? That's all on me. Right? And I find it the funny thing is about that is when people are wanting to be entrepreneurs or wanting to start their own business or wanting to do all that stuff, it's always hit me as ironic that people will sell themselves with it, whether it be a resume or whether it be to a new employer, sitting up there trying to sell somebody on why they need to hire them. Sell somebody else on why they need there, why they are valuable. But those same people, when it comes to going for them to step outside their comfort zone, to do something for themselves, they back off and they relinquish because they don't have the confidence in themselves, which I think is a little ironic and a little backwards, because here you could be doing something that's going to better yourself, but you're more willing to put your better foot forward for somebody else versus you being willing to step outside your comfort zone and have confidence in yourself that you're going to make it happen and move yourself forward. But most people, unfortunately, and I really say unfortunately, because a lot more people can make their lives a lot better if they were willing to step outside their comfort zone and overcome their fear. And then where that fear stems from when making that first choice is generally not having the confidence in yourself or just half confidence. So it's easier for you to regress and not go do that thing or don't do that next venture, and instead go be employed by employer. So that's kind of, it's kind of my rant on fear. And I think, I can go on day in, day out on this, but I really wanted Steve to kind of jump in on this. Steve, why don't you take your link and click yourself in on your phone or something?
Okay, I'll be back.
The link that you sent me, just click on that in your messages. Just give Steve a second to get on there, for this is more of a two-way conversation of a podcast that's supposed to be versus a one-man show. But I'll carry it out. I'm more than happy to carry it on. But wanted our first podcast to be our two-way conversation here. Just give us a minute. Technology, it's great when it works, but not so great when it malfunctions on you.
How about now? Anything?
Oh, are you there, Steve?
I am.
All right, I can hear you.
Well, that was good. I don't know what happened.
Well, I think part of it was mine. It just dawned on me. It looks like almost that it might have been something on my audio. So it might have been on my end. And so you might have been able to be heard the whole time. I just clicked on
that's nice.
So it might have been my tech. It might have been my tech problem. But anyway, so go ahead and bounce back to you.
I kind of think that was a setup, actually. Hang on 1 second. Let me get the audio come back out here. I think you did it on purpose, Josh.
No, not really.
All right, so you give me okay? Give me a thumbs up.
No, I hear you just great. It just
Perfect.
dawned on me because as I hit my my volume on my I don't know what happened. Yeah, I don't know. But maybe you're back. I don't know. It could have been on either end. I guess we'll know.
Right.
I guess we'll find out on the replay, won't we?
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna find out on the replay whether or not Josh was set me up. Like I said before, I'm just here to hold the microphone and didn't do a very good job of that. But what I was saying was before Josh said you couldn't hear me more was fear is used in a lot of different ways, right? And I don't know if anything. I really at this point can't think of any positive ways to use fear. But what I was saying is right now in the political environment, they're using fear to sell people on the vaccination, to sell people on the mask. Again, this is not a political conversation at all. I'm not going to tell you which way I go. I'm just telling you that the only reason why you and I would mask or get the vaccine was fear of getting COVID. Right, so they're using it to sell people on things, and I was thinking back about my life, and things that I've had when I was very, very young. I was probably, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old. I used to I'd love to go to the airport and watch airplanes, and so we would go to the airport. And back then they had a lookout tower or such, and we would go up there. And my dad would at times lift me up and put me on the rail, which, by the way, is not that high, but when you're 10 years old, it looks pretty high. And it's probably a couple of stories up. Looks like and it's scary. And there was one moment where he had me there. And mind you, when your dad's holding you 2 or 3 stories off the ground, there's a lot of trust factor in there to not be scared. And he does a little jolt, right, to kind of scare me. And since that day, I've always had a fear of heights, right? And going back to what Josh was talking about with fear, I fly airplanes, but I've never been fearful in an airplane because there's a bottom. You're sitting on something. It's a false expectation, right, appearing real, that I can't fall out of this thing because I'm sitting in a seat, right? That's why I've always liked to fly low-wing airplanes versus high-wing airplanes, which means you're not dangling, right? So, look, fear is never a good thing, but that has has stuck with me my entire life. Even now, when I stay in hotels that are very high off the ground, maybe I'm in the 50th floor, what have you, I won't walk to the edge of the glass because my mind is telling me, Josh, that there's going to be a strong wind. It's going to suck the glass out of this hotel room, and it's going to pull me out the window and throw me, down 65 stories. And I allow my mind to tell me that that's a possibility, and therefore I'm not going to go to the edge of the glass, right? And so that it's a big factor in how we have allow limiting beliefs. When it comes to fear, hold us back from actually, being all we could be in any given opportunity. And I think that's something we have to address. You've got to be willing to acknowledge that fear exists and move forward at the same time, right?
Yep.
Josh,
being willing to push yourself to that next level and stuff is fear. Here's the thing: is people think that there's this magic bullet, like these people that are able to do things that they're somehow fearless or just sit up there. Most everybody has a sense of fear. Just most people harness that fear and they get used to pushing past it. It doesn't become a recognition in their brain because they've conditioned themselves. Hear me now. They've conditioned themselves to not even recognize that fear any longer because they know what they've determined. They figured out the key component is that you just have to push past. You have to, no matter what thoughts or bad thoughts that go in your mind, you still have to do it, right? And you still have to push past it. You got to just make that decision to do it. And that's, in our industry right here, with insurance, when it comes to buying leads and kind of comes to doing that, all that kind of aspect of stuff, sometimes, yes, it could be uncomfortable spending that money on there because because you're 100% relying on yourself, right? 100%.
Yeah.
But it's making that decision. Just as in our industry, when we're doing leads, is push that button to buy, right? And it's sitting up there and just starting to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? But don't let fear rule the day.
Or be brave, right? Bravery is being afraid and still going forward, right? Yep. Or the definition of courage, I guess, is that definition. While in the acknowledging fear, you still go forward, and I think that's what separates the people in any kind of a business or opportunity from failure to success, and the ones that have success to ones that are elite producers is they continually move towards their goals in spite of fear, because fear is always there, right? Yeah. It depends on where you're at in life. For example, if you're a brand new agent or trying to get in this business, and people say, "Well, I got to spend $300-$400 a week on leads," that doesn't even register when you're broke, Josh. Right? And that's part of being. I don't have $300 or $400 a week to spend on leads. If I spend that, then I won't be able to pay my rent or my and all of a sudden it spins out of control. My house will be in foreclosure. They'll come repossess my car, and all of that stuff. And look, I've been around this world for a while. And I still have to keep myself in check and realize, okay, that's negative input coming into my mind. It's attempting to derail me from my ultimate goal. I'm going to push it aside and still go forward in spite of of fear and that negative mindset. So that, Josh, maybe you would talk about that for a second, because I find this to be something that a lot of people don't understand. We all get negative thoughts. We live in a negative, skeptical world, and so there's negative things that's going to enter your mind all the time. And usually, when you make a decision to go forward on a particular path, that's when those negative thoughts are really going to come at you. It could be coming. It could be your mind creating the negative thoughts. It could be your spouse, your kids, your best friend. Anybody is going to be hammering you with negative thoughts to see if it can knock you off the path going forward. Because let's face it, that's the world we live in, right? So how do you deal with that? How do you? So I know how to do it because I've been doing it myself. I have to stop myself. I tell you what, I used to do this with bad dreams. When I was a kid, I used to have horrible dreams. And I had to learn to force myself to think about something else when that bad dream was coming on, to stop my brain from focusing on the bad dream. It's the same thing here with negative thoughts. You got to say, okay, I recognize that as being a negative thought. I'm not going to allow myself to think about it or allow it in my brain. So I'm going to go over here and focus on this. Josh, talk about that for a second, because I think that's something you can speak on.
So, I mean, kind of how getting feedback from your phone. So how I kind of accomplish that a lot of times is consistency, right? And what I mean, I know it seems kind of like an ironic direction to kind of take it, but it drives that you're able to manipulate outcomes and how you perceive things by creating routines, right? Mindless tasks, right? Hear me out here. Mindless tasks. You keep moving forward those mindless tasks, and you do those enough, it becomes natural habits where it actually pushes, even when you're having rough times and when things are not going your way, you create those routines and those little steps of creating that consistency, that in the bigger spectrum of things, you have a lot more success than you have failure. So it makes it easier to push past those negative thoughts, because at the end of the day, good is going to rule the day, right? And I'm kind of a unique being when it comes a little bit of that stuff, because I have that attitude. It's kind of like an example is like, when it comes to routines, I don't let people control what activities that I do, right? Not even my wife. Don't control my activities, right? Sitting up there, I have certain routines that I'm going to do, right? Without fail. It's going to do. Whether it's when I go to the gym, it's something that I do every day. I'm going to go do that. I have it at a certain time of day. I have a routine. I have a schedule, right? When it comes to me eating, when it comes to doing certain stuff like that, right? I'm only going to eat a particular way, right? I don't let peer pressure change my mind. I am unaffected by peer pressure or social pressure. I'm unaffected. I won't let social pressure rule the day, right? I know what's good for me. I know what it's going to take for me to move myself forward. I know where my mind rests on whether it's negative or whether it's good, and where I need to keep my mindset. And most of that boils down to is creating that consistency, right? And so it's kind of like doing that start go constantly again and again, right? You're going to constantly have that same fear on that same action all the time if you are on one day, off for 5, on for another, off for 4, on for 1. Why? Because you don't create that consistency, right? So it's like every time you go on, it's like a new start again. So it's hard. You're never going to overcome that fear and that objection, just because you're starting afresh every time. You're not getting used to it. You're not getting used to overcoming that fear, right? And so to overcome that fear is creating that consistency in your life, on your actions, right? And so when you build that consistency, you start seeing results. And when you see results, it's a perpetual action, you guys. It is perpetual. So when you start making those consistent decisions and you start having success, it makes it easier to make that next decision, no matter how fearful it is, because you know that doing it that last time worked out, right? And you start doing those again and again. So you start building your confidence. And when you start building that confidence, I know it took me a long way to get to this point here, but you start building that confidence a little bit more, that fear fades. It fades because you start getting results, and you start getting results that you like, right? You still may have that little bit of that sting, and you still may have that little apprehension when something there, but you don't hold back. You had that apprehension, that thought went through your head, but you said, no, I can do it because you've done it before, right? So your actions, what you do, will decide your future actions, right? So it's just starting off at the beginning of getting used to being uncomfortable. Then it will actually stop being uncomfortable. You won't even realize that it's actually fear that's popping in your head. It's just it starts just coming across as a second thought.
Yeah. Nothing good comes from fear.
No.
Nothing good comes from fear. I've written down my sheet here. False expectations appearing real. Fear. Fear paralyzes people. Acknowledge that, push it aside, and move forward. I think that's, I don't think I know after thousands upon thousands of agents passing through here, fear is a dream killer. Fear is a success killer. You're either going to deal with it or it's going to deal with you, and you're not going to like it. So I told my daughter yesterday, life is only going to give you what you're willing to accept, right? And you cannot allow success to derail fear to derail your success in this opportunity or any opportunity that matter. Or, and I find that to be that again, it doesn't matter what opportunity you're in. If you don't deal with a mindset, deal with your how you think and how your thought process, and it doesn't. You can go to 10 different ones. There are no opportunities where you don't need to have it together from the neck up. So, Josh, what else you have to say about fear before I change the subject for a second?
No, we can change subject in general. Fear. I would say is start. Here's where you get caught up a little bit. Is that I know it's hard for people that people hear it. They hear the words that are coming right now. They hear it, right? And they know, and they probably are sitting there right now going, God, that's it. That, if I could just do that, right? And sitting up there and trying to see if there's going to be this magic word that comes out that helps them overcome that fear, right? For them to be able to push themselves to that next level. The one thing I'm going to tell you is that there isn't going to be that magic word. There's going to be that encouragement, right? And what I mean by that is making sure that you let yourself be uncomfortable, harness that feeling, and make that decision and make that choice that feels contrary to what your nerves are telling you. Doing the opposite of what your body is telling you. You may be sitting there sweating about it. You may be stressing about it. Fight those urges and make the opposite choice and push further. And have that confidence in you. There's no magic word. There's no magic there. You are the magic component. You are it. It's you making that opposite decision of what your body's telling you, what your nerves are telling you. That's what you do. That's what I would leave on that. On the topic of fear is no matter how uncomfortable it is, to do the opposite. You do that enough times, and you start seeing results, you will change your thought process, and you'll see more success.
Yeah, so let's talk about this business per se. I mean, I was reading a thing in front of me here. It says 52% of Americans are looking for an opportunity to make money from home, make money and work from home. And so, and that could be a fear for many people about not having that secure paycheck, not having, having to start a business. Folks, one of the great things about this industry right now, where it's at, I've been around this business for about 40 years now, so I've seen it come and go. I've only seen it a couple of times in this industry where the momentum is like it is right now. Well, the first one was when we figured out the old connection between being able to generate leads for life insurance through real estate data. And that was about 15 or so years ago, and that turned the industry for many of us It made it just a complete different paradigm shift from working friends, family, neighbors, case files, knocking on doors, using a phone book, all that stuff, to where now I can call and talk to somebody. That's why I have no tolerance for people who want to complain about the leads, right? A lead is a name and a phone number and permission to call. Period. It's a whole lot better than going knocking on doors or going and you getting the phone book and putting your finger down somewhere. And on that, I'm sure most people watch this podcast. Josh doesn't even know what a phone book is, but it's a whole lot different. And not only is it different, but it has scaled incomes dramatically. We've got people that are doing $20,000, $30,000 a day now in submitted premium a day, folks. I used to make $30,000 a year. So it's, we're in a different place right now with this opportunity. So part of the ones, and I'll have Josh speak to this, and we'll wrap it. We won't get too deep in this. We'll do it for the next podcast. But part of the way to reduce fear is to not be on your own, not do it yourself. Be part of a team, has a coach, a mentorship, not a recruiter, but someone has a time-tested and proven system you can plug into that will teach you and be there with you through the most critical steps of learning this business. In other words, teach you the skills necessary to succeed. I agree. It'd be very fearful to start your own business in any business without a team, because now you have to figure everything out on your own, and your family eating next month and having a roof over their head next month is dependent on you figuring it out. Right. And so that's why I like the team concept. So, Josh, you've been with us. I was looking at earlier today since May of 2019. So coming up on 3 years. You're a 6-figure plus producer within 6 months. Yes, you had your own business before. You were used to door-to-door sales, but you weren't in the insurance industry. So somebody that might be looking at this industry the first time, that may have had a job, all this time and never been in business for themselves. Speak for a moment on what they need to know and feel comfortable in about this industry and what they should be looking for in order to reduce that fear level, and get involved in this industry. Because right now, folks, we got people doing over $1 million a year in this business. Not recruiting, just selling insurance. It's insane, right? Anybody can come here now and utilize our system, our virtual platform. And by the way, everybody that wants to talk about virtual right now, they don't know what they're talking about. We got 18 months. We're far ahead of anybody else in this business. Far ahead. Hundreds of hours of training and figuring this thing out. We were doing it just before COVID, and now we have 500 plus people every single day at the firing of the pistol that are setting their days up, and all those many of those people are doing 20, 30, 40,000 bucks a week in submitted premium. So, and it's 100% virtual work from anywhere. The beach, the hotel, your house, your home, I don't care, RV, whatever. So it will never be this easy. And easy, I mean simple. Nothing's ever easy when it comes to starting your own business. So, Josh, share some thoughts.
So the biggest thing that I would pass forward is, so here's the one aspect. If you really want to have success, if you're going to make that choice to do it, is like kind of state there, is you want it to be a little bit mindless, right? And what I mean by that is that this is a very system-driven business, and especially in our field, right? Especially with it coming to virtual and how we got it nailed down. It's very system-driven, so it's very easy to come in. Is follow the steps that are provided, and do how you're coached. Right? Do the activity and do the actions that are recommended to you. And the only reason I say recommended to you is because you are self-employed. Nobody tells you what to do, right? But sit up there, you do work for yourself. But following a system-driven business, right? And sit up there, where did my success come from? I just hit on this very briefly. I mean, my first 6 months, yes, Steve said I hit elite producer and 6 figures that first 6 months. But the difference is I did do the opposite of what most people do when they come in here. I told Steve, forget that I know anything about sales. I don't know insurance. Show me the way. I followed the system to the T. I didn't question. I didn't do any of it. What I was told to do, I did. I didn't try to learn everything that needed to be learned. I just followed the steps and followed the system. So where I would advise people, and I say this very wholeheartedly, is follow the system that is provided. Because with whoever you're with, right? Follow the system because it's there for a reason, right? And it's sent up there, and is when you start questioning and you start looking for different answers. Now, I hate to take a step backwards, but generally, when people are looking for other answers that were already told to them, that's their fear speaking to them, afraid what they're getting may not be the most optimal what they want, right? Or looking for a reason out of it. Instead of doing that, you're making yourself regress. Follow the system and help move yourself forward. So that's kind of how I would hit on that, because it's one of those things to me, Steven. You know, it's a no-brainer type of thing. It is a mindless thing if you just sit there and you follow the system, right? It's people that overcomplicate it, right? Yeah. It's not, you know, and we're not going to cover any of that on this, but we got other systems that have been generated that is putting virtually on steroids, that is actually even making our thing even more system driven, right? And easier, right? But that's where most people go wrong, is that they veer from the system, or they think they're going to find something that's a little bit better, right? Yeah. There may that over that hill, it may be a little shinier, Steve, maybe a little shinier over there.
Yeah.
Right. Versus following the system and making sure that they're pushing themselves in the right direction.
Yeah, and one of the things they use for a shiny object is they run all over the industry and talk about high contracts. Folks, I get 20 or 30 or 40 calls a week from people that have high contracts. Why would they be calling me? Because they're broke. Right, high contract is the biggest head fake in the industry, you know, and they take these new agents that are looking around, throw high contracts at them. They sign them up, and they tell them all their trainings on YouTube, and they have no system. They got to figure out it themselves. And after a few months of buying leads from third-party vendors, because they don't have, look, folks, it costs money to run a business. And, you know, I'd much rather have a fair and equitable comp plan, meaning I can come in at a certain contract level and be able to go all the way to the top of the contract, of the comp plan, to the highest comp in the industry based on my performance, mine and my teams, or just mine, either one. Right, rather than be thrown a high comp rate with no leads, no support, no training, and had to figure it out myself, and then be thrown a sheet of a PDF or a piece of paper with 12 to 13 lead vendors on it, and say, hey, go and get some leads, and have, you know, and not know what to buy or how much to pay, or, you know, and they're recycled leads and they're aged, whatever. But it's not, you know, again. Those are the head fakes in the industry. So as John said, you know, it's system driven, not people driven. But here, you know, we have that time tested and proven system. Well, we talk about the 3 Ps all the time, which is phone, presentation, and product selection. If you don't get those things right, you're not going to make it, because you're buying leads, and leads are expensive, right? They're an investment. I use the word expensive because they're not cheap. You have to pay for them, and you want to get it right, and you want to be with a team, someone that will coach you and mentor you, not just sign you up, but coach and mentor you on every single aspect of this, of learning the skills necessary to succeed in this business. And I would gladly, and I have my entire career, be willing to give up 10, 15 points in the beginning, right? To be able to have a Josh Collar to work with. I mean, come on, people. I mean, you can think about that for a second. Would you not be willing to be coached by Grant Cardone if you want to learn the real estate business, and allow him to make 10 or 15% off your efforts for him to coach you and teach you to do what he does and have what he has? If you're not willing to do that, then you don't understand. Nothing's free in life, right? People aren't going to teach you their skills for free. They're not going to teach you success for free. Not to teach you to be successful in anything for free. They had to support their families, and they had to make money. So the high contract is the biggest head fake in the industry. I get them all the time, and I just tell them, look, we have the best comp plan in the industry. You can be a personal producer, you can be an agency builder, you can do both. And you'll be able to get profit sharing, bonuses, manager bonuses, all that stuff. And we own our own lead program. No third-party leads. We do have third-party leads access. If you want to go outside of our system, which you can do, we're not in the lead selling business. But the great thing about being with somebody that has their own lead program is we control the quality and the quantity of the leads. All of these things help reduce the fear because you got somebody to work with you that has proven success. That's the key, Josh, right there. Is I'm going to be scared. I'm going to be scared to death if I'm working with somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about. Right? That's why I want to be with Josh Collar. Josh Collar, he can't teach me how to make $1 million a year in this business, but he can teach me how to make multiple six figures because he's done that. So if he makes $50 on my policy, who cares? Because he's teaching me to be successful, and someday I can turn around and pay that forward with another agent, and that's how this business works, right? We're not in the sign-up business. We're in the partnering business. That's a big difference. Josh, and now that I get off that rant, because I'm passionate about that stuff because I see people, I get the phone calls of people, the people that have signed up. I get the big contract and I haven't heard from my upline in 6 months. He won't return my call. Well, no, he's not going to return your call because he's not making any money off of you because you're making the same amount of money as he's making. They're focused on supporting their families. They're not going to give you their time and reduce their income to help you. There has to be a fair and equitable exchange. It's got to be a win-win. So, look, Josh, if anybody wants to we're going to be back again and do this again every week, right? I'm fired up about it. Hopefully, hopefully you won't trick me with the sound quality issues next week and make me look like a complete idiot. But I love you. You know that. So if somebody wants to talk to you about, because I know you're building an agency, which is once you get to become an elite producer, once you figure it out, you got all pieces of the puzzle together, and you're being successful. The next thing to do, in my opinion, is in order to tap all areas of this industry, maximize the potential, because we have high commissions, we got residual income, and then we have passive income, is to build your agency, and Josh is doing that. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, give them your phone number that you want to give out, or how to get a hold of you. And I'd love to be on Josh's team. If I was just starting out in this business, I wanted someone that would coach and mentor me.
No, I think to make it easier for everybody, we can put it on the description. Jeez,
okay.
There, I struggle with that one, but yeah, I'll throw a number. It's 503-486-9575.
583-406.
486-9575.
All right. Say it one more time, Josh, so everybody gets it.
Well, you're putting it in the description, but so 503-486-9575. So we're gonna be here every week, anyways, and
every week.
I think what I want to kind of throw in there is that we're going to provide tools for you guys, regardless. That's going to help better yourself, right? Yep. And the one thing that I would kind of put out there before we kind of end this a little bit, not to hijack the show, Steve, is sit up there is like this video. If you liked a little bit of information, we may not be the best podcast out there and sit up there, but we're going to have a unique perspective. We're going to have a different perspective, right? And sit up there, which is that you should be driving and striving for, is to get different information in your head and feeding your brain, right? And constantly learning and evolving, right? So we have a different perspective. So if you get just a little bit of positive info out of any of these, like them, comment them, share them with somebody else, right, that you think may benefit them. But because the more activity that these type of videos hit, more people that may benefit, right? To sit up there and for us to take this to a different level and really provide information that we want to provide, it's going to take help. So that's what I would end with this, is make sure that you like and do and subscribe. Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of upset you said that, Josh, because I was hoping to be the next Joe Rogan. Well, not really. But listen, hey, one thing I can promise you, Josh, one thing I get from people 5-10 times a week is that they call me from YouTube and said, hey, I like the fact that you're just, I like how you put things. You don't sugarcoat it. You're just straightforward and bold. That's what I promise you on this. I guarantee you, Josh will I love having Josh on here. Him and I together, both. I guarantee you one thing. You may not like it, but we're going to tell you the truth and we're going to be honest with you. That's the idea of this podcast. That's what I've been doing for 5 years now on YouTube. And we plan on continuing that. The truth as we see it. Because we see a lot of people come and go in this business, and we want you to be in the business and stay in the business and support your family and have a paradigm shift in your finances as well. And 2022 is just starting. There's not a person that's watching this podcast that can make $200,000 this year. Not one.
If you'll just plug in, find the right mentor and coach, not recruiter, mentor and coach, and again, reach out to that person. Right? It's not them to reach out to you. It's you. It's you have to be hungry enough for success to be saying, "Hey, Josh, what kind of lead should I buy? What kind of script should I use? And you got to be hungry for the information, and that comes to desire. You got to have a big desire to win, and it's time. Now's the time. Tea and time is more important than tea and talent, and baby, it's right now. Josh, appreciate you. We'll do it again next week.
Yep. See you guys
Bye-bye.
next week.